16th. Recording in progress. August 16th, Brentwood Rotary Club. I'm Steve Hammers, the president. I'm excited to be your president. I wasn't sure if that was a moan or what. But anyway, we got a lot to cover today. It's an exciting day. First, we've got an invocation by Hunter McCarty, pledge and forward test by Keeley Hall, and Jim Biller through the Happy Bucks. But let's go ahead and do the invocation.
Please pray with me. We invoke your blessing on this meeting and upon our being together. We acknowledge that wherever we go, we are always in your presence. We pray that our actions may reflect this awareness for whatever our future will bring. Help us during our struggle for justice to confront one another without hatred or bitterness and to work together with mutual forbearance and respect. Comfort and relieve those among us that are experiencing health issues and give your power of healing to minister to their needs. Thank you for this good group and for letting us know that those great among us must first become great in serving others. Bless us with the pure pleasure of service and the joy of giving. Amen.
Pledge allegiance.
It's not there, Kip. It's me. Kip, I got it.
First.
Second. Third. Fourth. Jim Biller? Certainly hope so.
We got 1,000 people in this room. All right, thank you, Keely. Appreciate it. Our wonderful secretary. Actually, Happy Bucks is after introduction. Jennifer. Hello. Jennifer, oh, there you are. Jennifer Dwayne is going to introduce our guest and visiting Rotarian.
Yeah, you should. Where is the mic?
Do I try without microphones?
No.
All right, we have lots of guests today, which is expected. Trusty glasses on. Our first guest is hosted by Drew. Drew? Drew.
I'm Hume, a former colleague. He's here with me representing the minority. We are graduates from schools from another conference that won national championships during our lifetime.
Welcome. And Kip has two guests today.
This is Dennis. Please stand up, Dennis. Dennis DeBlock. He works for Ariston Hot Water Heaters. He likes to say he makes people hot and wet
Uh-oh.
for a living. So I've met this fine gentleman many years at the Standard, and I've attended his fundraiser that he does. What does that support again?
Living Waters for the World.
Living Waters for the World. He's doing it again in November. And then thank you for joining us, Dennis. Then we have Tucker Day. He is the son of Stuart Day. He is the former punter. He's a former Brentwood Bruin, former punter at Mississippi State. He is now at RJ Young, an upcoming professional. He has asked to join our club, and I will be sponsoring him. So if you have any objections, talk to me. No, we're happy.
And while on this side of the room, I'll give the mic to Roger.
My pleasure to introduce two of my longtime volunteer friends, Richard. Stand up, please. And Randy, if you can stand up, please do. Okay. Welcome.
Our next guests are on this side of the room. I'm going to do you last, and then you can just keep it. Right? Yep. Jason. I just saw Jay. There you are. Do you have a guest today? Jason Hulse. Okay, it says that you have a guest today. Who is Larry Heaton? Hedden.
Hey, everybody. Today I brought my brother-in-law, Larry. He's a former football player at Furman University. So outside of the SEC today. But he works at Fifth Third Bank here in Brentwood. Get a chance to know him. He's a great guy. Thank you.
The next one is Mark. Okay, he left. So I have a very special guest today. I got my husband to come.
Hey,
Tim, he does exist. I know he's a little elusive. I can't get him to come too much. Thank you for coming. And we also have back with us Rob Eichard. He is officially in our system now with a member proposal. So everybody make him feel welcome and part of our club. And Laura has two.
Want to welcome back Scott Robinson, who is in process right now, potential member. Welcome, Scott. Everybody clap for him. Clap for him. And EJ Rebel. He is with Lucan Analytics. Did I spell that? Did I pronounce that correctly? And he's interested in learning about our club and seeing if this is a place where he might also find a home to serve. So he has adjusted into a different area of financial planning, and I'm really happy to be in our Brentwood community. So make him feel welcome.
awesome.
So Doug, we always like it when you come because we always have lots of guests. So thank you. And our last guest is hosted by Jim, and he will keep the mic.
Forever and ever. This is a good friend of mine, Jerry McCullough. I have finally asked him, would you want to be a part of this club? And he goes, yeah, I've been waiting forever to ask me. It's good to have Jerry with me. Now, I want to show of hands. Who remembers Woody King? Okay, are you ready for what I'm going to do?
Yeah, do a Woody.
Happy today. All right, I got prepared for today's meeting. Lennis, if you'll put up the slide. Alan, where's Ole Miss ranked? Preseason AP, number 6. And a few weeks ago, you were bird dogging Alabama because they were ranked higher than Alabama. And where's Alabama today? Okay, thank you.
Hey, I have put some cards on everybody's table, and I'm just really happy that we're bringing back the business card kind of model for using this resource to connect with people who need to be a part of this club. So it's got a blank for you to put your name, phone number, and email. If you know somebody who you want to be a part of this club, invite them, write your information on it and hand it to them, and invite them to come be a part of the lunch meeting so they can see if they want to be part of this club. So there's some on each table. If there are not enough on your table, I have plenty. So grab a handful. And thank you so much to Susie for pointing this out so that we can make it happen again.
June, I had a routine colonoscopy, diagnosed with colon cancer. July, I had a colonectomy where they took out 4 inches of the colon and 11 inches of small intestines and a whole bunch of other stuff. The pathologies all came back. The margins are clear. Everything is clear. I am cancer-free and I'm back at Rotary.
Just glad to see Dick Bowers back.
Now, Woody would say, is that all that's happy? Come on.
Hey, we got one happy thing going on today. We have a birthday in this room, and his name is Dale Llewellyn. Where is he? Dale. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Dale. Happy birthday to you.
Oh, I don't have anything to say. I just want to give you $1. You
Sarah, you gotta say something.
Well,
I'm going to use Sarah's dollar. I don't have any cash. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, guys. We forgot our president's birthday a couple weeks ago.
Now you didn't forget it.
Well, we didn't acknowledge it at the meeting.
Wow.
Did
You
we?
didn't have to.
All right. Happy belated.
Thank you.
We'll
Appreciate
try to
that.
do better.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Today I got to greet, and when Dick Bowers walked through the front door, I was more happy than I've been in a long time. Good to see you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate that. A few announcements. Don't forget First Responders Picnic on the 12th of September. That will be our meeting. So I want to have a big crowd this year. There'll be no meeting the next day. So before we go on, Larry, you have the podium, the mic.
Thank you. Golf update. First of all, 3 weeks from Monday. So best I can figure, that's 23 days. So remember that we got 23 days left before Monday when we play. Looks like, some of you have not been to a golf tournament. Some of you don't care anything about golf, and that's fine. But just to let you know a little bit, if you haven't been to our tournament, what it looks like when you get there, we have 120 players who will be out there at 11 o'clock, 3 weeks from Monday. We have about 35 workers from this room that will be out there. Some of them out there at that time. Some of them come later. So, and then we've got people in the staff at the club. We've got a company that helps us set up the golf course with our signs and things. So we've got about 140 odd people out there working for us that day at the golf tournament. It's a big deal. So you think it's just what we got, it's got a golf tournament. Well, there's a lot more to it than that. So just keep that in mind. And we have done a really good job, I think, through the last 8 years of making ours fun. Thank you this week goes to Bob Searcy, Bob Thompson, who got 2 whole sponsors, Patrick Wright, and his new brother, Doug Wright, both got sponsors. Tim Stowell, Richard Dickerson, who I saw earlier here today, and Drew Rogers, Mr. Ex-President, turned in a couple today. So pretty good week, not a great week, but a pretty good week. So where does that leave us? We have 33 whole sponsors sold. We've sold all of our major sponsors. Everybody knows that. So we've got 33 whole sponsors that we've sold. We sold 82 last year. 3 weeks, guys, 33. I've got a list here, if anybody wants to see it, of the whole sponsors that you guys sold last year that we have not sold yet. And there's 40 something on here. So if anybody wants to see that, I put it up last week. We've got plenty of opportunities to make up the money that we need to make up. That's about all I've got. The outstanding whole sponsors are important because even though they're $350, when you're talking about 40 of them, that's a good bit of money. So please keep that in mind, and please just ask. That's all it takes. Right? Where's Jared? Where's Jared? Isn't that right? Just ask, right? You better. All right. Thank y'all. Get to work.
Susan.
I'm sorry. Susie heads up the volunteers, does a great job. She's got most of her spots filled, but she's got several openings. So please call her. It can be as little as a 2-hour commitment. It can be as long as a 7 or 8 hour commitment, just depending on what you want to do that day. But if Susie hadn't called you and you want to get out there and have some fun, give Susie a call. Thank you.
All right, we have a quick announcement from Dick Dickerson. Dick, all yours.
It's been said that Rotary meetings are about food, programs, and fellowship. To Dan Askew, it was all about fellowship and what Rotary could do for other people. So we annually give an award and a designation to someone that loves Rotary the way that Dan Askew loved Rotary. This year, I could spend a lot of time talking about our recipient, but for sake of time, I'm just give a couple of things. One, he's been in the club for a long time, and he's a Paul Harris fellow. He's continually contributed to the Rotary Foundation. Two, he has received the Bob Billington Award, which is the highest award that this club can give for a person with service. I heard a minister say once, Mrs. Jones, when I leave the hospital, she's already been there. When I see somebody in need, Miss Jones has answered that. And if we have a project, Mrs. Jones is always involved. I don't know how many times that I've heard that someone's in the hospital and our recipient had been there to see him. I don't know how many times I've heard that one of our recipients had a need and he took care of it. And if there's ever been a project in Rotary, he has been involved in it. He's not the oldest person in Rotary. I think I am. But he has the longest tenure of anyone in Rotary. Come January 1 of this year, he will have been in our club giving service to the community for 50 years. He is the epitome of service above self. On a personal note, Norris Johnson, I owe you a debt for encouraging me to become a member of this club. Will you come and receive your Dan Askew Award?
Wow, this was total surprise. Just thank you to whoever came up with this, but no, I was trying to figure it out. I think at birth they had this rotary when you get in, they gave you Bob Billington came to the hospital and got me in. So I guess that's how it happened. But to be selected from the peers of the club, and boy, if you look around at all the members in our club and all the great things we've done together with all the outstanding members and leadership we have here, and it's just such an outstanding club. I mean, it's so easy to do things for this club and help other people, but it's been the real joy to me to be in the club this long and participate in all the things we've done and all the benefits to the charitable organizations, the children that we read to in schools and things. It's just been my honor to serve this club. So thank you very much. Thank you, North. That's amazing. Before Hunter introduces our guest, you all have to look at Dick Dickerson's shoes before he leaves. So it's true. All right, Hunter McCarty is going to introduce our guest.
It's always a pleasure to introduce Doug. I think other than a meeting when we give out money or grants or whatever, I think this is the best attended meeting as far as guests, I would have to say. And Doug's made this a tradition. I think we were figuring today, he's been doing this maybe 15 to 20 years, and he doesn't do as many of these as he used to. But anyway, Doug Mathews hosts 2 radio shows, Forklift Systems Football Saturday and then Big Orange Sunday, and both of those are on 104.5 The Zone. On Football Saturday, he delves into college football with a focus on the SEC. The show also features nationally respected guests like Tony Barnhart and Charles Davis. Born and raised in Pitcher, Oklahoma, Doug was a 3-sport star in high school. He later earned a football scholarship to play at Northeastern Oklahoma A&M in Miami, Oklahoma. Doug's next played football at Vanderbilt University, where he led the SEC in rushing during his senior year in 1969. He earned a degree in history and while showcasing his athletic prowess on the field. After completing his time at Vanderbilt, he transitioned into a coaching career. He is best known for spending 10 seasons as running back coach and defensive coordinator for the University of Tennessee from 1980 to 1989. Mathews worked on the staff of legendary coach Johnny Majors, as well as he developed a close relationship with Phil Fulmer. In 1991, Mathews retired from coaching to spend more time with his family. That same year, though, Mathews and his wife, Pat, founded Doug Mathews Team Sports in Nashville. They ran the successful business venture until their sons began operating Mathews Team Sports in Franklin in 2012. Help me welcome Doug Mathews.
Thank you, Hunter. If there's any lawyers here today, I'd like for you to stay around and see me because Hunter was a trainer at Vanderbilt when I was there. And I've been really having a lot of problems with my left knee that I think the ultrasound was overdone back then and Hunter was doing all that stuff. So anyway, good to be here. Always great to see Hunter. A lot of good friends. You know, I forgot how many Atlanta Braves fans there are in this club. I see everybody walking around with these A's on their shirt, and I'm a Yankee guy, but a Yankee fan. But anyway, good to have you here. I want to clean up a couple things on my bio because they're starting to look at those things now. When you apply for another job, I don't think I'm going to be applying for many jobs, but a couple things on there. When Hunter said I earned a history degree at Vanderbilt, that's probably a little bit of they gave me to get me out of there. And anyway, but always good to see everybody. I'm going to do a couple things today. I usually come and talk just about the upcoming season, which is 2024. We're going to do that, but I want to kind of start and then maybe have a couple of questions because I don't know what exactly adjective you would use, but next year at this time, we'll be talking about this as what I would call a seismic shift in what's going to go on with college football with the revenue sharing. I know a lot of you have heard this. I'm going to hit it just real quick, and then if you have a couple of questions about it, but essentially what is happening here, we can go back a couple of years ago when the Supreme Court ruled unanimously, by the way. I don't know how many times, that doesn't happen very often in this country, that college athletes could no longer be kept from earning outside money. That really set in motion what we're going to be seeing now. And just essentially, without getting into all the nuts and bolts about this, you can read up about it. But 2025, starting in August, probably go into effect in July. But in August, the revenue sharing is going to be a part of college athletics. And essentially what it's going to end up being is any revenue that a university brings in, not donations, but ticket sales, things like that, concessions, Nike sponsorships, all of that is going to have to be shared equally between the university and athletes. So let's just use an example. This year, the Southeastern Conference gave each university athletic department for the university actually about a little over $50 million. So next year, 25 million of that is going to have to go to athletes. When you take in all the ticket sales that aren't included in that, remember the Southeastern Conference share is just media rights deals, essentially, tournament games, bowl games. So what you're going to be looking at is a probably somewhere around $150 to $200 million per university. Kind of depends on the university. University of Tennessee's ticket sales obviously are going to be more than Vanderbilt's because of the number, but you can kind of figure out where we're going to be on that. So that means athletes are going to be sharing somewhere around $100 million. And the interesting thing about this is it's going to be kind of weighted towards those programs and those athletes who bring in money, who bring in the revenue. Football, basketball, in some instances. Now, it will be shared equally. Well, it will be shared, but it will not be shared equally. So it's going to be pretty seismic, as I said. And the interesting thing, part of this is, I really believe we're going to see some universities who maybe opt out of this. And I think we're going to see a shift in, I don't think there's any question we're going to see a shift in, maybe some programs who are not going to be fully vested in it. And of course, those are the ones with the name, image, likeness situation right now. They're probably are not going to be able to compete. All that's going to be happening and being talked about right now in universities and athletic departments across the country. It also is going to mean this, that at some point we are just a year or 2 or 3 away from football completely pulling away from the NCAA, completely pulling away from actually being controlled by the Southeastern Conference. The NCAA will eventually do what they do best. They're outstanding at running tournaments. Yes, the NCAA tournament, baseball tournament, and football will be setting out there by themselves. Exactly how many teams we're looking at, probably looking somewhere between 40, 50, and 60. But if you're not willing as a university through your athletic department to be willing to get into where you're sharing that 100, 200, $150 million, then you're probably not going to be able to be part of that. So you can probably figure out the schools that maybe you'll stay in and some that'll stay out. And really it's going to affect, I got to ask this a good bit. Well, how's that going to affect the smaller schools? Well, the only analogy that I can think of is kind of like the banking system. There are national banks, there are some regional banks, and then there's some banks like the one that I grew up in. They're just single bank. That's the way football is going to be. And you have to decide financially whether you're going to be part of the national bank or a smaller program like an Austin P. Middle Tennessee is probably going to be on the fence. Memphis is probably going to be on the fence. So anyway, those are some factors that we're going to be talking about next year. Just real quick, does anybody have a question about that part of it? If you do, I'll try to answer. If not, I'll get into it. Yes. Well, some athletes are going to use it. All of them are going to use it. If instead of getting 50,000, if you don't use yours, then I'll probably get part of that myself. It's all going to be, it has to be shared with the athletes. It must be shared with the athletes. They're going to start out with 22.7 million this year, coming year, in 2025. That's you have to share 22 million with the athletes. All this is to settle a lawsuit that's been out there. They're trying to get that off the books. It's out of a federal court in California. All this has to be approved, but I think most people think it will be. Yes, sir.
Oh, so aren't they also going back in time and compensating former athletes?
Yeah, if you were an athlete from 2016 through the end of this year, July 2024, June, I guess 2024, you can put in a claim to be compensated for that. And there's I think a $5.7 billion pot that's out there because of that to pay for those. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, the good thing, I've said this for you, talking about the name, image, likeness and the transfer portal. College athletes have essentially the same deal as the NFL players do. It's just talk football, but all sports, but football, except they don't have any of the restrictions. There are not any contracts. There's not any salary cap. There's you can leave anytime you want to. But no, it's now here's the thing about these deals though. These are 1-year deals. They get paid monthly on them on the name, image, likeness deals. And the other part of it is there's nothing, just like you, the school doesn't have a contract with them. They don't have a contract with the school. So if you're not performing, and let's say let's just take a figure, $50,000, you're probably going to be making 10 the next year. So one bright spot on this, Coach Heupel mentioned this to me, and I had not thought about it. I said, that's got to be a really pain in the rear. And he says, is a little bit. He said, but the silver lining is this: we are having less and less and less problems off campus because everybody that's on an NIL deal, if you get picked up for whatever, arrested, you're probably going to lose that NIL deal. So that's a small caveat. But bottom line, it's this, is when I get asked about it, it's kind of like anything else. It's kind of like all of us pay taxes. And if you change, this, what is happening in the NCAA now, and you can either get on board with it or you're going to get run over, because it's here. So I had a good visit with with Candace Lee, who's the athletic director at Vanderbilt, and they're facing this, what are universities going to allow athletic departments to do? And then what are those athletic departments capable of? Just one real quick thing on that, and then I'll move on. Here's the thing, the 50% revenue sharing, that includes what the university does from a scholarship standpoint and all those types of things. Well, let's just take Vanderbilt, for instance. With everything involved, it's about $100,000 a year. All right. I think Tennessee, and I'm just using this because I know their in-state is like 38,000. So Vanderbilt will have to include in theirs an additional, what my math's not real good, $60,000, right? So that plays into it too. That's part of that 50%, but you're going to end up 50% of your profits are going to go towards revenue sharing. Yes, sir.
The word scholarship is now brought up, and that's what my question was. How does this all affect the athletic scholarships that are going to be?
Won't affect them at all. As a matter of fact, they're going to increase all of them. Football's going from 85 to 105. Baseball, just to give you an example, which was at 11.7, is going to go to 34 full scholarships. So there's going to be more scholarships available. You don't have to use them all. But what they're doing is they're putting in, they're not saying that you have to have X amount of scholarships, but just like in football, they're having a roster size limit of 105. You can't have more than 105 on the roster, and every other sport has a top cap, whether they're all on scholarship or none of them are on scholarship. They're going to have a set cap in football. And again, this starts in 2025. It's going to be 105. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Doug, so where is this going if it's not this year or next year, as far as what I've always called a student athlete? Are we going to go, is the student part going to go away? Are they going to be required to go to classes and pass and have a grade point average and all that kind of stuff? Or are they not?
Well, that's a good question. And a lot of people think that, but no, it's not. And the last national statistic I saw this, and this is thing it's hard to remember. But, most of the bigger state universities have somewhere between 500 and 600 student athletes. Only 5% of those are going to be playing professional in whatever their sport. So still 95% of those athletes are going to be having a job, the old thing about dumb jocks and things like that, that's really not a factor. One of the things that amazes me, I mean, I listen to some of these young people talking, when they're interviewing him. I mean, there's some sharp people, young people that are going to be having our jobs one of these days. But no, it'll continue to work like that. Here's the best analogy I give you if you're a golfer. Here's what's happened on this deal, and it's a good lesson for all of us. The PGA and the NCAA, if you compare, they both did two things. They sat on their butt. They didn't make any adjustments to their business model. They kicked the can down the road. That's what the NCAA did. That's what the PGA did. And all of a sudden, name, image, likeness lawsuits come along, and LIV comes along with PGA. So what does the PGA and what does NCAA do? They're trying to play catch up now, but they're behind. So they're trying to play catch up. So they put themselves in this position. And it's a great example for me, things change, and you can either be the you know, what's the old saying, the engine, or you can be the caboose back in the back. And some of these universities, several of them have done a great job with transfer portal and name, image, likeness. Others, and I'll use Clemson as an example. Clemson was a two-time national champion. You know, head coach over there said, we're not going to get involved in name, image, likeness much. We're not getting involved in transfer portal. They're now sitting at about 6th in the ACC because they didn't get involved. They're trying to play catch up now. So anyway, yes, sir.
You answered my question about the NCAA's like demise. Because I was like, you said that you thought like it was going to go away.
It's going to go with, just for football only. They do a wonderful job of all the tournament sports. And quite honestly, the athletic departments, the conferences, they don't want them to go away because they don't want to have to be responsible for all the tournament sports. They will separate from football, and you're still going to have an NCAA for everybody that's not one of the top 50 or 60 programs that are willing to put in a couple $100 million a year to keep things going.
Yeah. So I'm an Ohio State Buckeye.
Yep.
OH. So I just need to know, did Michigan cheat, and should they keep their national championship?
Speaking about conference expansion, that leads me into my my next thing. This is really, as a fan, it's super. But you know, you got what you really have now is you have two conferences that are controlling college football, and that's it. It doesn't make any, if you're not in the Big Ten or the Southeastern Conference, those two commissioners control college football, period. Nothing happens that they don't want to happen, and nothing really gets discussed much that they don't want to discuss. And it's kind of interesting because for years, the Southeastern Conference and the Big Ten had they really didn't work well together. Very rarely do you see a Big Ten school or a Southeastern Conference school playing each other in the regular season. They didn't agree on a lot of different things. But now with this new commissioner in the Big Ten and Coach Sankey in the Southeastern Conference, they have now formed a partnership without it being official, and they're controlling every single thing in college football, everything. Kind of interesting with the conference expansion. You know, I get asked which is the best conference. It's kind of like asking who's the best player. You know, it kind of depends on when you look at it. But just think about this. Southeastern Conference is going to have 16 teams this year. All right. 7 of those teams have won a national championship in football since the year 2000. The 8th, Tennessee won one in 1998. So half of this league has either won one or knows how to win one. And that tells you the competitiveness of it, however you pronounce that word. And Big Ten, of course, is adding those 4 teams from the Pac-10. You know, just think about this year. The 4 teams in the playoffs were from 4 different conferences last year. Those same 2 teams, 4 teams now are either in the Big Ten or the Southeastern Conference. 3 of those coaches that won and were in the playoffs last year are no longer at their school. Michigan coach went to the pros. Alabama's coach, of course, retired, and the Washington coach went to Alabama. So Texas is the only one that still has the same coach there. And you're going to continue seeing all this stuff kind of moving around a little bit. I did want to hit. Yeah, go ahead. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Coach, don't want to put you on the spot, but hotty toddy, how about those Rebels? No, he can never say anything good about Ole Miss, but seriously, how about Texas and Oklahoma? If you can give kind of how you think the merger in for this first season, and everybody's talking about Texas and how they may win the conference, and personally, nobody talks about Oklahoma, and
yeah,
so.
Well, number one, I'm an Okie. I grew up in Oklahoma, and I always envisioned myself as winning the Heisman Trophy at Oklahoma when I was a kid. Unfortunately, I have to go there to be able to win it from there. So I will say this, though. My best friend growing up was from Miami, Oklahoma, named Steve Owens, and he did win the Heisman Trophy at Oklahoma. The best thing I can tell you on that is I have a decent relationship with Coach Barry Switzer. I was out there because my former coach is still alive, living out there, 93 years old, Bobby Proctor. And I visited with him this past summer. His comments were that he thought that Texas was well equipped coming into this league, not only from a player standpoint, but there's a lot of other things that are involved in it besides just having good players. He thinks Oklahoma's lagging in name, image, likeness. And while he thinks they're going to be good, he thinks it's going to be a little bit of a more of an adjustment for them. Everything I see, Texas will come in this league ready to rock and roll. They got a really good team coming back, and is it going to be tougher? Sure, it's going to be tougher because when you play, when you play in the Big 12. And again, I grew up the Big 8 in the old Southwest Conference back then. There's really only two teams that really, when you get right down to it, either Oklahoma or Texas are going to win that league most years. There's every now and then TCU will jump in there, Kansas State. They're not there anymore. Kind of interesting. And when they had their media days, they billed it as a league that has great parity. Well, so what does that mean? That means there's really nobody up here. We got a bunch of them right in here, so, but Texas, I think Texas be right, but Oklahoma will get there. I heard Bob Stoops say this the other day, and he's right. He said, everybody's so excited about Texas coming in. He said, Oklahoma has won 4, gone to the playoffs 4 times. Texas has gone 1. We've beaten them like 12 times out of the last whatever. But I don't, right now, I think Texas is much more able to come in. Anybody that's been around Texas knows if when Texas has the right coach, it's kind of like Alabama, quite honestly. When Alabama gets the right coach, they're tough to beat. When they don't get the right coach, we know what happens. They're not all that tough to beat. So one quick thing too, I try to put a little wisdom in a few things, but I am a huge, huge fan, not only as a coach, but of Nick Saban. I think anybody that's coaching or likes football that doesn't listen to this guy, every time he says something, I listen to him. But, I heard him talking one time about with his players, he talks to them about are you a but guy, B-U-T, not B-U-T-T. Are you a but guy or are you an and guy? And his comment was, Hunter's a really good football player, or Hunter's a really good football player and that kind of struck a note with me. You want those people who are really good, but they're and guys. He's a great player, but you know what? He's a heck of a person. Or he's a really good player, but boy, is he a handful to handle off the field. So anyway, and I think there's more and guys out there than buts, but Doug Dickey, I just shared this with a buddy of mine. Doug Dickey, when he's athletic director, told me one time I was complaining about something. And he said, Doug, he said, let me tell you this, 5% of your players are going to give you 95% of your problems. You can just count on that. And those same 5% are going to win about 95% of your games too. So you can got to kind of live with it. Let me see here. I've wasted a lot of time here. Just a couple things. Interesting to me. Who in the league this year is going to be the Ole Miss and Missouri of 2023, or the Tennessee, South Carolina of 2022? Both those programs were kind of thought maybe weren't going to do that well. There's going to be some teams that hop up there. It was Ole Miss last year and Missouri. Ole Miss lost 2 games last year. Georgia, Alabama, neither one of those teams got beat in the league. Missouri had a great year, kind of came out of nowhere. So who are going to be those 2 teams? And then on the other end of it, for the last 5, 6, 7 years, it's been Georgia and Alabama, or Alabama and Georgia. Who are going to be those 2 teams this year? Georgia probably is. Alabama, there's questions. They got a lot of good players, but you don't lose a guy like Nick Saban, and normally you do not. Maybe this guy's got a great background. I don't know anything about him other than he's only lost like 10 games in his life, so he's got to be doing something right. But who's going to be those people? What about Oklahoma and Texas, which we just talked about? And so it's an exciting year for this league. It's going to be an exciting year in the Big Ten. You know, if you think about the Big Ten, just think about this. If you are a player or a family that are in Oregon, Washington, Southern California, either USC or Southern Cal, and just think about the travel you're going to be having between there. You know, Rutgers is a Big Ten school. Now, I don't know exactly how far Rutgers is from Los Angeles, but it's pretty good distance. And I get asked about this. Here's what I can tell you from coaching in games. Never played in one, but in coaching in games, when you are an Eastern time zone team, like when we were at Tennessee, when I was at Tennessee, we played UCLA and LA, and we played Southern Cal. And conversely, when you are in a Western time zone and coming to the Eastern time zone, it has a huge effect on you as players, just like when we travel, you know. So rarely does a team that are anywhere equal from a Western time, a Eastern time zone go to Western time zone and win, and vice versa. So all those things are going to be playing factors in some of it. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see some teams now starting to go in on a Thursday to get the Friday to be acclimated on some of these. But it's a huge new world, and where we're heading, we're not exactly sure. So I get asked about the conference. I really don't know. I know this. I was up at Tennessee scrimmage yesterday. Tennessee's is going to be a better football team this year, but I don't know how good everybody they're going to be playing is. You know, you don't ever know that. They're a better team. I would suspect that Georgia is going to still be the team to beat, but they got some questions too. Alabama's got a lot of players returning. LSU can't, Florida can't stay where they are for very much longer. LSU, you think, is coming. Ole Miss seems like they've reloaded too, but 9-3 football teams now are going to be in this conference. It's going to be like an 11-1 team, I think, going forward. The good thing is this: in the playoffs, you're going to get 3 Southeastern Conference teams in that 12-team playoff every year. Probably going to get 3 Big Ten, and in some years you're going to be able to get 4. So I think what fans are going to do, and I put myself in this category, winning this is kind of like basketball now. Does it really make a difference if you win the conference? It's nice, but what do you need to do? You need to get to the tournament. And this is a tournament now. There's 12 teams. And if you can get to that now, I think that's what fans are going to hopefully expect. And, 3 or 4 every year is going to get in from the Southeastern Conference. So it's going to do make a lot of changes. Anybody have a quick question? Let me know when I need to get the hook here, Hunter. Any question about the league or anything? Yes, sir. Or anything else?
Yeah, I had a question. Do you think once the football kind of splits off in 2 years, we'll get back to traditional conferences for every other sport?
Absolutely. And I don't think it'll happen in 2 years, but I do think it's going to happen eventually. What with this 12-team playoffs going to last for sure for this year in 2025. Everybody that I know that knows anything think it's going to go to 14 or 16 teams eventually. But no, it'll every other sport will remain the same, and I think they'll be better because they don't have that specter, of the football just kind of running everything. They're going to have their own sport, and they'll be able to comply. I'll just take Vanderbilt for example. I don't know this, but I would be willing to wager that Vanderbilt is going to say, "Hey, we're going to take the revenue share. You still got a revenue share, all right? You got to give 50% of it somewhere." I think Vanderbilt, just a guess on my part, will say, you know what, we're going to take care of football, but we're going to put our revenue shares in the sports that we can compete for conference and maybe even national championships. I do think that's going to happen. I think other schools will probably do that too. It's going to be tremendously difficult for any private school other than Notre Dame to be able to compete in this football environment from a financial standpoint.
Coach, I know you do the couple of shows on Saturday mornings during football season, all year. What is your typical Saturday like you have 5 TVs up in your house and.
No, you know what? I get asked that a lot. I told Hunter this. I didn't tell him this one. He was paying me to have his company on, but I almost feel sometimes like it's like stealing. Because I watch, all week long, I'm looking and reading stuff, keeping up with football. And it's really not, I'm on 3 hours a week. 3 hours on the weekend. The great thing that I have with mine, I don't think there's another instance where this happens, but I own my own shows. I buy the time from one of the blowtorch. I mean, there's 2.5 million people can easily hear 104.5 The Zone. That's up in Kentucky and everywhere else. But I do it anyway. The sponsors that I've had, I've been doing the Saturday show for this is the 20th season. And 4 of the sponsors that were on with me the first show are still on there. And Forklift Systems, we were talking about this, Dwayne Hardy. He asked me one day, he said, when are you going to raise the price on me on that thing? Because I'm still charging that thing. And I said, Dwayne, I said, for about 10 years, you were grossly undercompensated. you were paying me. So, but I watch it anyway. And if you've listened to the shows, one thing that I'm able to do, because I'm only on 3 days, I don't take any phone calls. So I don't have to hear what Harry up in White House thinks about what Alabama's going to do. That's fine. But and I don't try to get coaches fired. I don't have sponsors on there that would be, or any strip clubs on there, so to speak, or alcohol. Not that I'm against. Well, I'm not against alcohol for sure, but anyway, it's a lot of fun. I enjoy doing it. I'm probably going to give it up one of these years. I still have a lot of good people that I know in college football in particular, and then I have people like Tony Barnhart and Charles Davis. I've added a new guy this year that is really big in the Big Ten, named Mark Blaushin. He was with the Boston Globe for a while, and he's going to be kind of the Notre Dame Big Ten guy. And I try to expand it every year to bring in people who are knowledgeable. I really work hard at not talking about stuff I don't know too much about, and letting other people do that. And I don't mean this as the way it's going to sound, but as my old buddy Carl Johnson, who many of you probably know, once told me, he said, it's not real hard to be the tallest midget in the room. And there's some people on the airways that don't know what the hell they're talking about. Quite frankly, that just makes it look like maybe I know a little bit more, and I probably know too. So anyway, yes, sir.
Hey, Doug, you touched on it just briefly, but where's Notre Dame going to shake out in all this? Are they finally going to join a conference, or are they just going to keep doing what they've been doing?
Who are you talking about?
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame can join any conference anytime they want to, but they don't want to. And I think I can understand. Tradition, I think, plays a big part in it. The 2 schools, I was asked about this, the 2 schools that are really going to be interesting to see what happens with are Florida State and Clemson. Both of them are suing to get out of the ACC and or countersuing the ACC to get out of there. But where are they going to go? And I'm not sure the Southeastern Conference will take them, because everything now, just think about this. If in 2029, they estimate the Southeastern Conference, each team will get conservative figure from all the media rights deal. Every team will get $105 million just for being part of the league. So if you're going to come into the league of 16 teams, you're going to almost have to show, hey, are you going to bring an additional $105 million with you? And the only way I see both those, and they may get in the Southeastern Conference, but I think the only way it'll happen is if the SEC does not want to. The Big Ten will certainly take them to get a foothold down here in the South. It's all about eyeballs, and the Big Ten, I think, will probably do that. But Notre Dame, I don't see them joining the league. They have one. The one thing that might make them do it, but I don't think it will. See, the first 4 teams in the playoffs get a bye. All right, but you have to be a conference champion to get a bye. Well, Notre Dame cannot win a conference championship, because even though they play 6 ACC games, they're not figured in the championship. So, but going way back, when I was growing up, Oklahoma and Notre Dame had some great ball games. Notre Dame, it's their administration that's made that decision, and I don't see them joining the league, quite frankly. And financially, they're certainly not going to need to, I don't think. Yes, sir.
Two quick things. First, next time you see Kirby Smart, please tell him to sign an NIL deal with Uber or Lyft, just because I'm tired of seeing players getting DUIs every other week.
Yeah.
But mostly, is it true that the teams that aren't in the 12-team playoff are going to try to form like a NIT deal for basketball? Where they're going to
Not in football, I don't see that happening because the money's not there. Nope. It's all, not all, but a good bit, it's about money. Yes, sir. Right.
What are the odds of a tiebreaker? Is there any system set up for tiebreaker because it's a 16 team?
You're talking about in the conference. There'll be some tiebreakers on. It's going to be 1 against 2, which I like a lot. 1 against 2. I don't know what the tiebreakers are going to be, but I don't think they've even come out with them yet. They probably know what they are, but there certainly will be some tiebreakers. By the way, SEC championship game, they talk about championship games going away. SEC championship's not going anywhere. That is a huge, huge moneymaker for this league. And again, Big Ten, Southeastern Conference, they rule the roost. Last one. I know we've got to get out of here.
Let's give Doug a hand.
Thank you.
Hey, Doug, on behalf of Rotary, we'd like to give you a gift, but if you don't mind signing a book that we read for children. Really appreciate it. I'd like to thank all the guests that we've had: Tom, Tucker, Dennis, Larry, Rob, Jerry, Richard, EJ. Oh my gosh, we got a lot of them here. Scott, Buddy, Randy, Jeff, Tim. Thank you for coming. Tom also, thank you for coming. Don't forget to jack the chairs. Remember that this time. And 8. And if there's nothing else for the good of Rotary, we are adjourned.